Hey, Frank Garza here again, and as promised, shooting one last video here for you, the final video here to help you prepare for the upcoming shoulder pain and rotator cuff workshop. And the topic today is the single biggest number one mistake that shoulder pain and rotator cuff sufferers make in dealing with their shoulder pain or issues. Okay, and we typically see this in people that have a grade 2, that when they make this mistake, it makes their condition worse into a grade 3. And we hear it a lot in the clinic when people come in, and it's just astonishing when they say that they've had shoulder pain for years and on and off, but it would go away and it would come back, and they just never did anything about it until, you know, one day that they did a sudden movement and they all of a sudden heard a pop and couldn't really move their arm like it used to. And a lot of the times, you know, it starts with things like, you know, well, at first I couldn't really lift my arm to brush my hair, but then I just stopped using that hand and just used the other one. So they slowly start to take away activities of their daily living because of their pain. So for instance, maybe they were very active and bowled and golfed every week. But now due to the shoulder pain, they just kind of cut back on that. And maybe they're not golfing and bowling anymore because that's what causes their pain. And then it slowly gets worse and worse to the point where it's really hurting them at night. It's really causing them to lose sleep. And it's at this point where they can't even carry their purse. They're having to be really creative with, you know, especially females, with donning and like putting and taking off their bra. Males, you know, putting on their t-shirts. So it's really starting to affect their life. And that's when they decide to do something about it. And unfortunately, that's a little too late. So the number one biggest mistake that shoulder pain and rotator cuff sufferers make is that they ignore it, or they just wait for it to heal on its own. That's what we hear a lot in the clinic. Well, I waited for it to heal. The bad news with that is that if you wait for it to get worse, especially if it's a grade 2, and don't do anything about it, then, you know, it's going to get to a grade 3. And like mentioned before, grade 3s are only repairable through surgery. So if you want to avoid and take care of your shoulder pain naturally without pain medications, injections, or surgery, and you notice an issue or some pain with your shoulder, if you avoid the number one biggest mistake that people do, which is ignoring or waiting for it to heal on its own, then you most likely will be able to prevent it from going from a grade 2 to a grade 3, because you took action, you seeked out some help, you handled the situation, and you did something about that shoulder pain in a timely fashion, and did not ignore it. So that's it. That's the number one single biggest mistake that people make. I hope you're getting ready for the workshop. I'm excited to meet you and to share all this valuable information with you, and we'll see you there.